So, I am either delusional or it's Qatar. But, anyways, it's CRL Elite Division Season 4 Round 5 here today. And you've got me for your second sprint of this division season and the last one. So, yeah. It's going to be an interesting one. We do have a few new names. You also have Bentley, who's actually returning from Season 1 Mexico. If you're an obscure CRL fanatic like myself, unfortunately as the owner, but irrespective of that, you have got one hell of an event on today, as it is going to be probably a fight between Fiora, Matty, Vince for your race win. As the qualifying is about to start, so don't go anywhere. We are going to be riding on board today with Vince for the hot lap. As Lewis, that's a question to ask in DMs rather than here. But anyways, heading up to the start finish line for the one run showdown. Here in Qatar you can see Vince already pulling all the way up to the outside for the first corner break just after the 100 bollard, shimmy it over the apex, try and get a full wheel over to use the whip to its absolute maximum there, pretty much cut as much as possible. As long as you have two tyres on the track, you are valid. Go past the Louis Vuitton bridge, then just lift off the throttle after 50, back on it as you go through 5 and 6, heavy on brakes, 30.0 after the first sector. It's looking mediocre for Vince, but it currently does seem like Fiora has got the upper hand in the Williams car. But through the middle section, Vince trying to find that time back. He set pole in the main event a week ago at Spa, and he's also been lighting the track up in the Legends Div after the first two sectors. It's 57.1, so he's definitely fighting through the triple rights, really getting all aggressive, giving it absolutely everything he's got up to the white line, trying not to invalidate, which he manages to do so quite nicely. Round the final corner, and now it's a spurt of life up to the line, using all the battery left, and it's going to be a 21.1 as Rian goes to the top with a 20.8. A magnificent run for the debutant here today, as Fiora saying that was an awful lap, which does beg the question, how close will it be for the main race? As here is your sprint grid. It's Rian on pole, followed by Fiora in second, Vince in third, KZ Matty fourth, Rocco 5th, Adam 6th, Shankly 7th, George 8th, Lewis 9th, Jedi in 10th, Tugger 11th, then it's Bentley who DNF'd, Daniel suspension and Zebra all failing to set a lap, invalidating their runs today. But without further ado, let's head towards the sprint race. There's no distinct ready up time for the sprints, so expect these guys to ready in the next few moments for that first part of the event. But if you were to look at the championship, Williams is running away with it. They currently have a 24-point advantage over Haas entering this event, but Aston Martin looming only 7 points behind. Should have your mum joining, but currently no word from the Brit, so it's currently one partaking. Then you have McLaren and Red Bull both on 67 points each. Vince hoping to close that up to the back of Williams, whereas Adam doing all he can alongside the reserve of Bentley. But that was just the countdown to the sprint, so the lights flicking up one by one, and it's lights out, and away we go for the sprint race here in Qatar for CRL Season 4 Round 3. It's Rian versus Fiora, but you can see Vince and Matty even trying to give it a run. Vince round the outside of the Williams and your championship leader, who's having to defend his own turmoil. As you can tell, English is not flowing to me today. But irrespective of that, the top three all got away well. As you can see, it's getting a bit rough in the background as Rocco hitting George for a brief moment, but getting it going in P8 as Jedi has had a horrible start. Down to 14th for him, as you could just see there. Daniel promoting himself up to 10th and then 9th as George has gone for a little spin. Him saying that's his first event with TC on a lower setting. Bentley 2 seconds for multiple warnings, but for Ryan Spencer, he is on a stride and a half, not really giving too much, as Bentley has just had an offing. Trying to see where the offing is. It's a retirement on track for Bentley, meaning that is going to be his qualifying jeopardised, as that is a shame. As this is just me typing it up to him. As you can see, Rian versus Fiora. But Rian fending off, and now we can go fully back to it. Bentley's accepted his fate as such, which is good to say the least. As he says, people are dirty. That's kind of a jeopardy for starting at the back, where you can say that. And it's the opening lap, so yeah. He's saying people brake checking, and again, this is where you go back to the talk of skill in CRL. You do have a fair field spread. If Keegan was to be racing, Rian probably would have out-qualified him by about 10 seconds here. That just puts it into perspective. However, Rian leads over Fiora and then Vince as George having another little turnaround. As the Mercedes fighting against the Williams. As around the final corner to work their way up to the first corner of this third lap. I was going to say second lap, but it ain't. Fiora versus Rian closing in, rear wing wide open, and unable to get past the Mercedes at this time of asking. As, yeah, that's just showing nothing at the moment, but Zebra has promoted himself into P10, which does give him 1 point, whereas Lewis fighting Daniel to the inside against the Haas driver, banging wheels a brief moment, and that will be the Aston Martin through. Could there be conversation of possibly giving a little nudge off the road? I don't think it'll be anything, but you never know what some of these drivers might do. They do like clutching at a straw or two in hopes of maximising their points, even if it's 1 extra point, which can be earned in the sprint. But for Rian, he's been effortless so far. Fiora hasn't had a chance to pounce at the Mercedes thus far, as they just have to settle in, as Rian has got 2 seconds for track limits. KZ Matty even taking a familiar line to that Mercedes round the penultimate corner, but for this it gives prime opportunity for Fiora just to settle down. Don't have to go too aggressive for the next 2 laps. He could win on track or he can win off track. But out to the outside goes the Williams, trying to lug it round the long way against the Silver Arrow. Will it work? Will it pay off? Not this time, but the battle continues to rage on through turn 3. Fiora could very much look to the inside for turn 4, as Vince having a little peek. Lewis getting 2 seconds into the Haas in P9. But for Rian, he's just holding on that advantage against the Williams, Red Bull and Haas, all in a very simplistic queue behind the Mercedes, which is something we did see in the sprint a week ago at Spa-Francorchamps, So it's nothing new for some of these front runners, but we can again look towards the midfield. You've got Adam leading Rocco and Shankly, a Racing Bulls and a Sauber in the train. For Sauber, they had their best point scoring weekend a week ago, with Roadrunner taking a reserve role for them then, but they are still in 10th in the standings, 4 points off of Scuderia, who are currently 14th here today, and then a further 3 off of Mercedes, who's currently 11th. So we could have a fair shot at seeing them swap around a bit. As Fiora, however, to the outside against Rian, he's got the momentum this time round. Will he be able to finalise it? Yes, he will. To the inside for turn 2, and that is job well done on the final lap of this sprint for Fiora. They just have to keep it within track limits, and they should come home with the win on and off track. But Rian to the inside for turn 4. The Mercedes is back through effortlessly, almost as if they didn't have to try in this case, as Vince all over the back of the Williams now. He knows that this is a pivotal point in this sprint race, because it could definitely revolutionise the outlook of the championship into the final half of the season next week, which, if my memory serves correct, you've got Legends Div on May the 4th, so do expect a few Star Warsy jokes around then, and then you have us back in the commentary box on the 6th of May for not Legends Elite, but you could possibly be having an F1 Manager event as well on the 5th, so do keep your eyes peeled, do follow us. But for the final time this sprint race, it's going to be Rian who crosses the line to win for Mercedes, but Fiora will take it, and the Mercedes is booted off of the podium. Adam comes home P5, Rocco 6th, Shankly 7th, and then Daniel on return up in 8th, but Zebra promoted to 9th due to the penalty from Lewis. Jedi takes home 12th in the sprint. Suspension 13th. George 14th. As Daniel does correct me, 8th. My bad. But there is Fiora on the top step, continuing what they've been doing all season long, and that is winning things. But for the sprint race, it's Fiora who takes the second sprint in a row, followed by Vince in second, Matty third, Rian Spencer 4th, Adam 5th, Rocco 6th, Shankly in 7th, 8th goes to Daniel, 9th for Zebra, 10th for Tugger, 11th for Jedi, 11th for Lewis, 12th for Jedi, 13th suspension, George 14th, and Bentley with a quali ban for the main race, as Rocco has asked for a chance to restart the game, which we will deem, as we also do question whether or not Bart, your mum, Trucker and Theo will in fact join us. However, that is just the first part of the shenanigans. As this is where we quickly alter some of the lobby settings for you lot. Those 5 seconds was last week, mate. Yes, it said in Steward's report, but as a result, it got added on to your finishing times at Spa-Francorchamps. As I'm just going to check these, then I'll send Rocco an invite. I'm pretty sure What do you mean, so no finishing time? So last week, what I mean by that is you finished, I don't know, 29 seconds off. You got 5 seconds, means you're 34 seconds off of the winner. It just gets added onto your race, but for the sprint race instead of the main race. As I'm just double checking a few lobby settings, because I'm actually debating what's been put down in the elite info, which I actually wrote. Yeah, this seems right. That's the most important thing, you know, ladies and gents. What seems right? As we are going to wait for Rocco to get in. And we'll just tell him, ready at 23 past. So, a week ago, it was 24 past for qualifying. So, think about it, we're making progress. A week ago, 1 minute difference. It's not much. But it is definitely better than nothing. Ah. Well, suspension. The difference with this week is it's of course a sprint, so we have an extra race. If we wanted to start main event, we'd have to be starting the sprint about 6:30, which just does not suit my schedule. But anyways, drivers lobbying up for the main event. So, about 18 minutes of shenanigans on your way, of people invalidating laps, going for pole, but only one man can get it. 3 drivers, however, do score points through qualifying. So do indeed bear that in mind. As I think suspensions actually spelt shenanigans better than I could ever do it. So I guess we are in for a ride. As if you are interested in joining CRL any time you want, you can find a link in the comments in about, I don't know, 4 seconds time. But yeah. As suspension hoping his teammate Fiora gets pole position for today, I think it is anticipated, but the way in which Rianne stormed away with pole is definitely something to keep an eye on. Whether or not that can be replicated in the main race, or was it definitely a poor lap from Fiora? As cars are all now waiting to head out onto the track. There's a Red Bull. But while these drivers head on an out lap, I'm going to quickly grab a drink just because my throat's sore. So do enjoy the sweet sound of silence for the next minute or so as I've just dropped my phone. But I'll be back. because I actually am amazing at managing time. But yeah, Vince going through the first corner, working through turn 2 now as qualifying is in full swing here today. As most drivers starting lap, but Vince chucking it through turns 4 and now 5, working his way to the end of sector 1, a banker of a 30.0, which is about a tenth quicker than what he did in sprint qualifying. So we are definitely looking at a more competitive session, which we indeed saw in Spa. It was quite one-sided in the sprint quali, just due to being one lap and one lap only, so mistakes were so easy. But here you've got that chance to set multiple runs. But for Vince, a purple middle sector, of course, he's the only man to have done it, so that is just a part of the expected cycle. But now up to the final corner for the first time here in Qatar. What's it going to be? Fourth Red Bull pursuing a late championship charge. It's a 20.9, which is not far from what was set in the sprint. Rocco up next. It's a 22.1 for them. Then it's Tugger over the line. It's a 23.6. You've got a McLaren of Adam heading to the line as George did not settle up, but Adam a 22.0 quicker than Rocco just about, as you've got KZ Matty up to the line in the Haas. It's a 21.7 for them. You've got a Williams of suspension rounding the final corner. Fair play to him to keep it all valid. And that is a 24.6 for them. Zebra going through the middle sector. You've got Daniel up to the line. He's invalidated, but Lewis, Rian and Jedi all in the same bit of land. Jedi 6th, Rian 2nd, Lewis no lap. Fiora invalidated, George on a push. Zebra heading up to the line, however, in the Sauber. Can they go up to the top 8? Yeah, they'll go P6 in the session, as Rian has got 5 places for a collision with Daniel, which is not ideal. There could be a chance he tries reporting it during quali, which is valid. If it's like something I think shouldn't be penalised, there could be a lobby reset. But for George, heading round the final corner, seeing what he can do up to the start finish line. What's it going to be? It's going to be P7 for them. Daniel having a little moment or two. Very interesting lines for the Aston Martin, as Bentley saying Daniel should learn how to move out the way, and it seems like that's what happened. As Daniel was saying, he just punted him into the wall, so 2 different sides. As Lewis over the line, it's a 22.6. But yeah, that's just put out there. Fiora purple sector 1 at 29.789. Daniel going around the final corner, failing to follow pit entry, which is a shame. As Rian says, it doesn't matter. He's happy to take the drop. Fiora, however, continuing to push on, as Shankly has forgot to put on a setup. Daniel saying he's Daniel's trying to spark, saying someone's meant to run a quali ban, which they are. Fiora over the line, it's a 21.1. As yeah, he's tried clutching at a straw, thinking it was Bentley talking, whereas Bentley was talking on Rian's behalf. So that's just the mild confusion going on. as Lewis into the pit, but currently 12 people with a lap on the board after 11. Bentley's retired, yes indeed, suspension. That's due to a qualifying ban for retiring on track in the sprint. No, it wasn't Adam. It was Daniel thinking it was Rianne. As we've actually just got a driver turn around and say, when was the race meant to start? So I turned around and went 32 minutes ago. So yeah, that is just roundly infuriating. He says yes on attendance and just doesn't regard it whatsoever. Shankly has fallen into the depths of having to do a whole event on a default setup because he didn't change it, which is an amateur mistake, but that's all the fun. As I'm just going to give this guy a team quick. As we are going to have to send a driver an invite in a brief moment, which has just been done. But let's see if anyone's on a lap. You've got Jedi, you've got Tugger, you've got Rocco invalidated, so we'll keep our eyes poised on Tugger's lap, see whether or not the Mercedes can break out of the bottom 10. Not bottom 10, I mean top. What the fuck am I on about? Bottom 6 or P10 as such. We could very much be having an Alpine join us as well, so do keep that in mind. As Tugger heading up to the start finish line, what's it going to be for the Mercedes? Battery all used up, but over the line now. It's a 23.1, it's an improvement, but still 3/10 off. Jedi heading up to the line as Trucker has joined over the line for Jedi, and that is an improvement that still sees him P11. You've got Daniel working his way through the middle sector. Ignore my chair, it is squeaking like a mad animal. But for Daniel, round the final corner, literally the last hurdle to get to the line without an invalidation. What's it going to be for the Aston? It's a 22.286 for them. As you've got Vince with the new purple sector 1, Rian 2 up, he's just invalidated. Talking about that, Adam going through the triple rights at the moment. Are we going to see a McLaren, a Papaya find himself in amongst the top 4 here? He's not far from Matty whatsoever. He's been showing quite imperious form as of recent, but up to the start finish line for Adam, and that is only P5. It's an improvement as we've got Naismith in that car. Rocco up to 5th. Zebra just starting a run, I believe. Lewis heading to the final corner, but so is Vince. The man on provisional pole just reasserts it by about half a tenth, as I've now lost track. Lewis over the line now, and that is P10. Shankly has retired from qualifying as suspension, just saying he's just cut someone out. That's not ideal, but more or less we have now got 16 for this race. As I do want to believe you were the kick. You've got a Williams logo though. I know what you mean, mate. Don't have to explain yourself. It was one of the kicks. But Daniel, on another flyer in the Aston Martin, giving it a shot, seeing whether or not he can put himself in amongst the top 7, as it's looking alright for him as things stand. It's not been too off-putting of lap. In fact, I'll take that back, a little invalidation, as drivers charging into the pit lane now, as a McLaren going slowly, trying to keep all the fuel in the tank, as now we have got the track filling up once more. Rian on an outlap, George on an outlap as well. As the Mercedes going to see whether or not they can find themselves on pole position. Suspensions in Qatar, one of the best tracks. I personally think Qatar is one of the best for league racing as a test of skill, but in terms of actual real life F1, I hate it, just because it does bear such a burden on the driver's shoulders. If you do not recall, a few years ago, about 4 drivers had to retire. 2 drivers threw up in the car while driving. It is a nightmare of a race for some, but in the F1 game, it's quite an enjoyable track to drive, I'd say. I quite enjoy driving it, but to be honest, I'd probably be setting 28s if I was racing today. I really am not the most talented of drivers, but Rian up to the start-finish line to kickstart the dying embers of qualifying. 4 minutes left on the clock, and for him the chase starts now. Yes, I'm embracing my own Bradley Walsh, but through the first corner he manages to wash it away with ease. Just again after the 50 bollard, a very slight input on the brakes, and now back onto the battery burner as they charge up towards turn 4. Chuck it right as Munjaka has joined, which shouldn't have happened, which may mean a lobby reset, as at the end of the first sector for Rian it is purple for them. Can they continue it along through the right and down through the left, keeping it all nice and clean for this lap, as it's 4 tenths up for Rian Spencer. The momentum is definitely going as Manjaka's left. Thank the Lord for that one, but putting Mercedes through the left hand up towards the final corner. This is definitely looking like a lap that could strike pole position and take it by storm up to the start finish line. Now it's a 26, and unfortunately 13 thousandths is the deficit. George over the line, he's gone P9 once more. You've got Fiora on a push, never mind, they're on a slower lap. Naismith working through the final sector now at 57.6. We could be looking at a very much plain mid-table lap from the Alpine, who's going to mark his first race of this season as a reserve up to the line. He's got 13% battery. That will be plenty to get him to the end, and it's P8 for Naismith. Lewis is on a push, but also I think we have to have a look at Fiora, as we've got Rian have an offing. I think he's actually binned the car there, as it did look like that was off the road. So yeah, I do believe that was a crash. Fiora, however, 87 thousandths up after the first sector. This is a lap that could make or break this man's event, because of course Vince in behind. Is he backing off? I think he is. No, he ain't. I was just like, that's quite a slow route through there, but for Fiora, 4 tenths up. maybe it's just my interpretation of speed. That's out the window, but it's a purple middle sector for the Williams. Could this be a possible pole lap? As Ryan's starting to message in the Discord, as they said that's the best they could have done. Fiora up to the line. What's it going to be for them? It's a 20.8. It's not enough. It's still a tenth and a half down, however, which just shows the sheer competition here. Daniel on a slow. You've got Jedi going through the middle sector. He is going to be your next man to take to the start finish line, or is it Zebra? It's Zebra, in fact. But they are not on anything competitive, so we shimmy the focus back to Jedi, who's invalidated, which is a shame. You've got KZ Matty up next in the house, 2 tenths up, a purple middle sector once again. Quite a common trope of these top bunch, but will it be a lap to remember for this round? Around the final corner, up to the start finish line. What's it going to be? For the Haas, it's a 21.0, not going to be a valiant enough of an effort, but Adam finding about half a second of time, he could go up to P5 in this session. That could be groundbreaking for Rocco over the line. It's in fact P5 for the McLaren suspension around the final corner. He's invalidated, so we do put the focus onto Rocco, who's finding time as well, but is it going to be enough time to put himself back into the top 5? It will be, just about. Very, very minimal margins is the best way to phrase it. Daniel up to the line. He's run out of battery. What's it going to be, though? It's only going to be enough for 9th. Zebra over the line. It's only going to be 7th for the Sauber, as the race is definitely on. Because these guys, they have got a big task, especially Bentley, P15 here with that quali ban. Rian, 5th place grid drop, meaning 7th on the grid for them. They've got a fair few cars to work their way through. As here is your starting grid for the main race. It's Vince followed by Rian, then it's Fiora, Matty, Rocco, Adam, Zebra, Naismith, Daniel, George, Lewis, Tugger, Jedi, suspension. Then it's Bentley and Shankly, all failing to do a lap, but you must admire that top 3. Just under a tenth and a half. But for Rian, unfortunate. They've got that 5th place and also 13 thousandths off of Vince. That is quite important for this race. As we will be readying up for the main race at 48 past the hour, or 12 minutes to 8 o'clock. So, we'll beg the question, who is going to win here today? If you have any predictions in the chat, go at it. If I was to put my money on it, I would probably say Vince or Fiora. But you really don't know. It could be anyone. As, yeah. But yeah, who wants to have a little chinwag? I've got nothing really to say. Maybe a rundown of the standings in the next minute. So you've got Fiora on 101, Matty on 69, Vince 58, Roadrunner 42, Rocco 39, Dilbergs 32, Your Mum 30, Adam 28, Daniel 22. That's your top 10 in the drivers. For the constructors, however, it's Williams 102, Haas 78, Aston Martin 71, McLaren and Red Bull 67 apiece, Alpine 43, Racing Bulls 42. Probably at the start of the season the team that were favourites, but then only 7th after a fairly poor run of form. Mercedes 41, Ferrari 38, Sauber 34. Suspension your points tally 1 after the first 4 races. Bear in mind you of course had that family emergency in round 2 and then took the following week off as a recovery. And then last week you got straight lines. So in the one race you've actually done in full without any flaws, it's still a point. So fair play to you, especially bearing in mind skill gap. I'd be happy with a point. You're contributing to Williams' success. And as the way things are going, you could get a champion club role come the end of the season. But the race is now starting. 3, 4 and 5 lights are up. The lights have disappeared and so are the drivers. It's Vince versus Fiora towards turn 1 here in Qatar. But Fiora having a fairly poor start. You've also got Zebra getting a better start than Adam as Rian trying to find a way past the McLaren to the inside. There's an Alpine having contact with a Haas as George is going off for a little wonder of his own. Rian barging his way past Zebra through turn 2. And now the Mercedes just has to overtake Adam. Then he's in the mix once more. Rocco in P6 right behind, however. Do not forget, Rocco has got the performance as he's just been lobbed off by Lewis down the field. As you can see, Bentley has had an outstanding start to the race. He's up to P7 at the moment, looking at even a top 6 for the Papaya, who is just tucked in behind the Aston Martin of Daniel. After the opening lap, you can even now see some of the tyres in use. Shankly on set of softs, then a split of mediums and hards down the field. But for the time being, it's Vince versus Fiora. They've completely blitzed Matty, who's already 1.4 seconds back on the first 2 sectors. So Rian and Adam could try and creep themselves up the field 1 or 2 places as a result of this. But for Bentley, he's had a superb start, which is fair play to the returning driver. Of course, if you haven't followed CRL since Season 1, he raced in Mexico in Season 1, as there's Rian overtaking Adam to take P4 in the first time of asking, as Bentley goes to the inside against Daniel, the Australian versus the Brit. Is there going to be the swap fully down? Yes, it will. Bentley not really have to fight too much for that one. And now it's the McLarens 5th and 6th in this race. Could we see them two go swapping around a bit more? Or is Bentley just in pursuit? He's set a purple middle sector. He is definitely meaning business. But for someone like me, I'm definitely talking Tennessee. Zebra up to P9, getting past Tugger. Of course, Tugger on the harder compounded tyres, so it's a weaker start for them. So bear that in mind, as Jedi has just got past Naismith, who's gone for a little journey off into the gravel trap, now reversing themselves back onto the road. But Vince and Fiora, absolutely pandemonium for them. 2.7 seconds clear of Matty come the end of the second lap. These two are just on a conquest of their own. It's almost like they're playing this race on 51 AI. But for Fiora, fastest lap of the race this time round. Of course, another 27 laps to change that, as Rian to the inside against Matty. Job well done for them, but you can even see Zebra versus Lewis for P8, and that is a Sauber up into the points, as Rocco, Shankly and Tugger all getting nitty and gritty with each other, as there's George swooping round the outside after it all goes wrong and Rocco goes round the Racing Bulls down to P14. Not the finest piece of driving from them lot, but that is pivotal for the Racing Bulls team, as Shankly now just plummeting down the field. The soft compounds really have not worked out for them, as they are now holding on to P12 for dear life, as they've got Tugger tucked in behind, seeing whether he could try and shove Shankly out of the way to put himself up into the top 12. But you have to think Rocco is on the back of them all, who has again not had one of their finest races, had a very up and down season, with Silverstone, him racing him looking quite good, and then a game bug where he disconnects and it retires the car, saw him out. Then last week it all went wrong, he retired. Then this week it's again all going wrong. But for Fiora, closing in on Vince's Rian sets your fastest lap of the race. Matty will just be focusing on trying to stay with these guys as long as possible. But you've got Shankly versus Tugger towards turn 1, Hards versus Soft, the Mercedes versus Sauber, but nothing changing there as such. There was definitely a glimmer of hope though for the man in the silver arrows, but it just didn't come around. But you can see a little peek to the outside as Shankly tries defending thin air, pretty much, as in the desert you do have quite a thin layer of air, to say the least. Shankly fending to the inside for turn 6, up towards turn 7. Could we see a lunge from the Mercedes? No, we won't. It is definitely a move that is in the works, but Rocco, tucked in right behind them, will definitely be getting impatient in the next lap or so, as Tugger looking around, he's definitely searching for space. There was an opportunity to try and stick it to the inside for the triple right. Thought it might have been a better opportunity another time, taking a very adventurous line on the exit of them, and then again, but suspension, 3-second time penalty, perfectly synced with the Mercedes going off the road. But it's a poor run out of the final corner. Could Rocco finally see themselves rock up into P13 and maybe even P12 if they can do the job that the Mercedes was unable to do? So a few laps ago, Jedi will be trying to defend against Shankly to back him into Rocco, who almost again went for a semi-spin, dropping the ball almost on the exit of turn 1. Round the outside of turn 2, George going slow. That's the Ferrari dropping down. Jedi up into 10th. But remember, points down to 12th, so George is still lingering in that last points playing position despite the abysmal mistake that saw him drop off from Lewis and then into the grasps of both Racing Bulls, as there goes George round and into the wall, front wing off the car. That's a shame for George, to say the least, as Daniel getting 3 seconds for track limits now, as we might as well focus back on these two. They are going head to tail in the drivers' fight in the Legends division. Vince in some form that is getting him quite close to the back end of Fiora in the championship. That margin has just been closing itself week by week, but at the moment it really is looking like a one-way story for them. But now Fiora versus Vince, you can see Rian just holding on in the background as much as they possibly can, but just nothing coming about so far. As yeah, we are just going to wait for the stops more than anything, as I believe that was Zebra getting 3 seconds for track limits. George limping down the pit lane for new front wing and onto the hard compound tyres, so they will probably be considering looking at taking it fairly long into this race, maybe into a possible safety car window, which is, I'd say, around lap 20 based off CRL's history, we never have an early safety car. We always tend to get one in the latter half, around 7 laps to the end. But the drivers are such high caliber, we tend not to see even a virtual safety car most time. But Fiora, getting close to the rear end of Vince, thought about going for a move there. But again, another opportunity wasted. But it's so difficult to overtake in Qatar. There's only one DRS zone. Then it's all raw momentum in that middle sector, or middle half, let's say. Because if you just say from turn 4 to pretty much the final corner, no DRS zones whatsoever. And the only one is actually into turn 1, which Ney has just overtaken suspension going through. So it is definitely overtakeable. But one thing to bear in mind, Haas versus McLaren. McLaren could promote themselves into second in the constructors after today's race. They've never sat this high in CRL's history. So they could be making their own story this season of Elite Dev. It's definitely a story we've been longing to see. Papaya pushing for the constructors, as Adam definitely being the right driver to give them an elixir of life. You had Thomas James prior, he did really well, but just wasn't able to get the performances. There's Fiora to the inside for turn 2 against Vince, and that is the Williams now into the race lead here today. There was definitely a chance of that coming, and for Fiora, couldn't have came at any better time, to say the least. As we are just going to continue to wait it out for it all to kick off, but you can just see Fiora is storming away in this race. It's really like he's just been in a league of his own from the start, just unable to get by, however, and that is why he got stuck behind Vince already, 6/10 clear of the Red Bull. It doesn't sound like much, but for a DRS zone you need more than that. For Chance and Rian, 2 seconds off of the top 2. He is starting to pursue after the leaders, and Matty is also going to have to start thinking about those hard compounder tyres, because for him they are going to start getting into their own window and will definitely start becoming the better compound in this race, as Bentley picked up 3 seconds going through the triple rights. And that is for the man in P6 in this race. But you've got Lewis versus Rocco. Rocco to the outside. Is it going to be P9 for them? This is having to be a wonderful recovery drive for the Croatian. Just having a look to the inside on all the exits, doing everything right. The only thing going wrong is the fact that Haas is putting on a stellar defence through the first sector, kept it all going in the right direction for them. And you really can't say anything has gone wrong in retrospect. But for Lewis, he just has to continue this in order to hold off Rocco and minimise the points in which Racing Bulls can score. Because if Racing Bulls were full on going all out, they could still be in this championship. It's not a long shot. Half the season and 60 points entering today. Leaving today, you're looking at about 120. Because Williams just look like they are untouchable at that front, irrespective of what their rivals can pull off. Fiora is a single driver team, 101 this season. Daniel being your first to pit in your strategy window. Shankly on a new set of softs as well. So bear that in mind. But Rocco looking to the inside. He will go to the inside instead against Lewis. I said inside twice. You know what I mean. Outside then inside. But Lewis fighting around the outside of turn 2. Is there going to be contact between the Racing Bulls and Haas? The Haas will sliver through down the inside for turn 3. But still, wheel to wheel as they enter turn 4. Rocco on the outside having to bear it the long way round. Is it going to work? It will work. As they go to the inside for turn 6, so Lewis having to try and pull off a switchback, unable to get the throttle on the exit, so it's game over there, and that is Rocco with a beautiful move up into P8. Thoroughly well deserved, thoroughly well played off, as I'll be honest, I don't think he could have done anything better in that, because it's never easy overtaking on pure merit at Saudi Arabia, not Saudi Arabia, at Qatar. But Fiora versus Vince towards turn 1, they have to be wary about how much they're fighting, because Rian, since about lap 6, has dropped that gap by 2 seconds and is about to creep into the DRS range of these guys, almost definitely, with better tyres as well, based off the fact they've been in clean air all race, while these two have just been trading the dirty air with one another. So, could we see a three-way fight for the win? But that Mercedes is definitely going to be your favourite in this battle for the foreseeable future, as Tugger versus Jedi going through the first sector. Jedi was telling me about how he can drag those tyres to about lap 20, which would be an imperious first stint and really set him up quite nicely for the second stint. But this track is all about tyre management and tyre wear, as suspension 9 laps on the hards into the pit lane doesn't think he can do a 1-stop, so that's a 2-stop for him, as I know Jedi very well. He is a maestro of tyre management. If he says he can get him to a certain point, he will get him to a certain point. No second thought, as Vince is in rather early in this race. I would have thought a bit longer in the Red Bull, but it now means it's Fiora versus Rian for P1, as Zebra going slow. Is there a puncture? It's a front left puncture. That's what's gone wrong in this race. And now Tugger and Jedi both right up behind him, as off the road goes the Sauber. It's manic and it's anarchy for the man in the green, having to now enter the pit lane. Whether or not this is their race being continued from here, we are about to find out, but that is definitely not something, as Jedi and Tug are both into the pit. So I think Jedi is playing more the straightforward 2-stop game here today. But Zebra into the pits, he's onto the hards, he's going to have to manage it either to the end or as deep into this race as he can go. But for Fiora, he just gets DRS on the suspension. He may have been going a bit slower to give him that DRS. But now, fending off against Rian into the pits, we will now see a direct comparison on where they come out compared to the man in P5 of Vince, who has got Rocco right behind him. So the Racing Bulls still somewhat in this race. If they can try and pull off a 1-stop, they are in the fight for a top 5, which is a very good job to say at least. Bentley into the pits, but Rocco darting to the pit lane now. He's getting off the hards, and Vince is coming out ahead of Rian. So the undercut does somewhat work. It does build up and reinstate a margin, but only about a second a lap. That was for Vince. And now for Fiora, it will be a matter of fact, when do they pit? Because time is going to be of the essence. The longer Fiora can hold it out, the more likely the 1-stop is going to work for your reigning champion, the only driver to have ever won back-to-back championships in CRL. If they win today, that would be a statement and a half, because if they win today, they really do put themselves in the hot seat for the rest of the season. They've pretty much led since round 2. No, since round 1 actually. But into the pits comes Fiora. And up to this date, no one's won back-to-back. Projo won Legends Div Season 1, or the original Season 1. Then it was Marco winning... Marco won Drivers. Konami won Drivers in Season 2 of Elite. I'm pretty sure he won the Drivers as well for Legends. And then you look at likes of Season 3, Fiora won one, and the other went to Rocco. So yeah, quite a bit. Actually no, Marco won Season 2 Elite Div Drivers. That's my bad, but yeah. No one's actually got multiple, as Lewis has retired from the session. As now Rian going through the middle part of the lap, just sitting behind Vince. But Fiora is a second and a half behind them. They're all mutualistically shimmying and shaying at the same margins as one another. Not really going anywhere as such. But for Fiora, they just know they have to be patient in this race. They've got the fresher tyres, so they're of course going to be in prime position come the stage where those tyres are going to be dead. But the McLarens have got a straight up fight here between each other. Currently 5th and 6th on the track, pulling off an undercut on KZ Matty, but also in a fighting stance with one another. Bentley, DRS wide open, working up towards turn 1 against their teammate. We saw the Papayas fighting in round 2 for a brief stage, but it'll be Bentley to the inside, and Bentley goes through up into P5. He didn't have to ask twice against his teammates. His teammate just handed it on a silver platter, but that's the best way to do it, especially when they know they are in pursuit of both cars in the top 6. If you're to look at their results this season, it was pointless in Spain, 15 in Vegas, 38 at Silverstone, then another 14 at Spa. Today they're looking at upwards of 20, which will really help them in this championship. But if you're to look at some of the front end teams in the constructors, you've got Williams 29, 15, 21, 37. That's when they're on 102. Haas 20, 22, 7, 29. They're on 78. Then Aston pointless 15, 30, 26. Hence they're on 71. And then also you could glance at Red Bull 12, 10, 15, 30. So that's why they're joint with McLaren. But you can just see they're all having their own highs and lows, and that's just drafting themselves into this championship, both McLaren and Red Bull. However, for McLaren, since the start of round 2, they've only yielded 5 points in this campaign to Williams, which is a very good job at damage limitation. Better than any other team. Well, the only other team that's done better is Aston, who's only yielded 2 since then. But yeah, as one of the Alpines who are meant to be racing today is just actually messaged in Elite Div General, as that's their second race skipped for doing attendance and just not showing. Georgian Ferrari has retired from the race, making it their second pointless race in 3. And last time they scored more than 10 points was your season opener with 30 points scored. does say a lot about how this season's gone for Ferrari. They've just not been that competitive since the start. They had a really strong round one with Roadrunner in the car. Hasn't really showed up since. Then Roadrunner being in Sauber last week, putting 27 points on the board for the team, alongside Pasty Smasher. But you can now see Rian versus Vince. Fight for P2, P1 on track. Well, off track, because Matty, of course, yet to pit. Only driver waiting to pit. As hello Pasty, nice to see you in chat. But yeah, I'm just trying to find things to say. But we finally have some wheel-to-wheel racing coming on. Vince versus Rian, the Mercedes versus the Red Bull, 5th versus 8th in the championships respectively, as KZ Matty peels into the pits after 16 laps. Well, 17 on those tyres if you include the one just gone, meaning they only have to do about 12 laps on those hards to get it to the end. But Rian, trying round the outside against Vince, had a little poke at the dead horse as such, but nothing able to swap those places thus far. Bentley's dropped Adam, and Matty has came out about 2 seconds down the road from Adam, as Daniel has retired from the race. That's the Aston Martin out, as that is a shame for them. That's the second time this season Aston Martin will go pointless. Only other time was your season opener, which does show how times have changed, as this will also be their lowest scoring race since then, because they've never gone under 15 since in Las Vegas 15, Silverstone 30 and Spa 26, as Rian getting 3 seconds off track limits. That, just like the sprint race, determined who won. As a result of Rian getting track limits in the sprint, Fiora won then. But now Vince is in prime position, who fends to the inside, Rian to the inside, and there goes the Mercedes. Will get through, backhand the Red Bull, pull off a switchback. They'll have the outside for turn 2, as I believe Shankly is just coming up ahead of them to be lapped in this race, which is a shame for the Sauber man. But KZ Matty has found himself past Adam, and that drops him down to P6. Bentley up next, 2.3 seconds down the road for the Haas driver. But still, it's all kicking off here as Rian leads the field, but it's Vince versus Fiora for your current win as things stand, because with the way things are going, unless Rian does drop 3 seconds on these two in the next 10 or so laps, it will be one of those who take the win. But if Rian can take it away, he should take a race win on debut and grant Mercedes their highest point scoring race of the campaign so far. 13 points is their best point scoring race out in Barcelona for round 1. Last week in the sprint they only scored a mere 11 for context, but Fiora just staying to their line, trying to see whether or not they could go around the outside of Vince, but Vince just using the toe of Rian allowed themselves to propel away from your reigning champion. As Matty at 23.499, he didn't like the sight of being in the 0.5, so he just thought he'd go 1,000th quicker and get himself into the next barrier, as Vince setting personal best sector 1 there does show that these guys up front have got quite a lot of pace in the cars, to a point where they're matching their own sectors. which just shows crazy consistency, as Rocco getting 3 seconds for multiple warnings, him in 7th, Jedi down in 8th, the 2 Racing Bulls struggling in this race, Jedi making it 9th now as Zebra has just found their way through in the Sauber. But now Vince round the penultimate corner, he's going to get DRS on Rian, and Fiora is tucked in right behind the Red Bull in prime position to cause some chaos. Vince not opting to take the toe from Rian because he's going to have to try and fend against Fiora, who knows what they have to do to win this race. There's still time to determine it, but Bentley having to also try and fend off against Matty, who's a rocket ship up towards turn 1. Bentley will cover off on the outside at least, and that means the Haas, who's on a charge, is delayed for 1 more lap, ladies and gents. So expect to move up towards turn 1 in a lap's time, as Rocco limping down the pit lane for his 2nd stop of the evening. Will Jedi also follow his teammates' footsteps and put hards on maybe? Yes, he will. You can see Jedi just slowing down, and now the pit confirmation is up on your screens on your left hand side. In P8 and P10 for Racing Bulls, a lovely double stack for the team, not anything to overcomplicate things. And it just means for them they are racing straight up to the end, as Vince in P2 still, Fiora P3 on track. As I said, unless Rian can break 3 seconds, it will be one of these two in 2nd or 3rd to take the winners. Fiora, all of them taking different parts of the tarmac towards turn 1. It was quite clear none of them wanted the toe from one another. As Pasty congratulating Zebra for doing a good job at taking his seat here. Of course, P7 for the debutant here today, doing a very good job, as Matty has just got ahead of Bentley for P4. As this could again be another good points for Sauber, and I can tell you for a fact, for the first time this season, Sauber won't be last in the standings. Well, first time since America, where they won't be last in the standings, because round 1 McLaren and Aston both went pointless, so Sauber 8th entering round 2, then they dropped to 10th, then they continued it with only 7 points in the first 3, then 27 last week, putting on 34. Then today, well, Shankly's probably scored about 3 across both sprint and feature. Zebra's also scored about 1 or 2 in the sprint, and they're looking at about 8 in this feature. And then Ferrari pointless, but for Mercedes, Rian guiding them on a charge and a tangent of their own. Tugger and P10 as well. That's going to be helping them quite gloriously in the constructor standings. Would see them jump Alpine, would see them jump Racing Bulls, would even see them close the gap to Red Bull and McLaren. And I do think they would even jump the Aston Martin team, who's, no, actually, 30 points in it. It's going to be nip and tuck, but I do think they just take it over Aston. So Mercedes having a heroic event here in Qatar. And then the question would be whether or not they can continue the momentum into the extremist 2nd half of the season, as Vince getting 3 seconds. So now your race leader is Fiora, and these two are fighting over P2. But the 2nd half of the season compared to the first is a nightmare, as you can see Rian lapping Jedi in the Racing Bulls. Vince to the outside against the Mercedes, trying to take the long way round. Will Vince get it? Is the question, as there's contact between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. The Red Bull gains the place. That will definitely have to go to the stewarding room, unless Vince hands it back, because that was contact. That led to the place being gained. But Vince, he's going to hold on to it. Rian's going to lob it to the inside. He goes, no, this is my place, thank you very much. You've just spun me round for it. I'm going to claim it back. And so does. But as I was saying about the races, you've had Spain, Vegas, Silverstone, Belgium, Qatar, which is kind of pro racing. And then in the final half of the season, you've got Canada, Australia, Monaco, Mexico, Brazil, which are all kind of also pro racing, apart from Monaco. But that will be an interesting event, to say the least. Round 8, which is going to be a nightmare for the drivers and a joy for me as the commentator. Last time I did it, it was PSGL in season 41. 7 cars crashed in the Novell chicane, is all I can say, and that was the second quickest set of PlayStation drivers. So I wonder what these guys will be able to do. To be fair though, the likes of Rian and Vince could easily blend with some of those PSGL groups with ease. I think these two could all, well, these lot could all compete in the higher tiers of the league. But may I say, Zebra versus Naismith for P8, Alpine versus Sauber. We are quickly approaching the end of the race as well. For Shankly, unfortunately, 10 laps saw a puncture. No, not him. It was Zebra who got puncture after 10 laps on the mediums. So for Naismith, 8 laps on him currently, as Zebra straight to the inside. He knows what he has to do to defend for position. He will cover it, but the Alpine will go to the inside, and that will be Alpine up into P8. They are doing everything in which they can to keep themselves as clear of the Sauber team as possible. But unfortunately for them, they've just not been showing both drivers in a fair while. Silverstone was the last time they'd done it. Last week, both said yes and both were no-shows. This week, one said yes and again a no-show. So it's the reserve who stepped in to race. But Nay already dropping the ball against Zebra. It's quite clear in this race. But Bentley holding on really nicely against Matty. You can see track limit penalties, however. For Bentley, he will drop behind his teammate again. But in the fight for the win, it's going to be Fiora who will take it as things stand. In the midfield, however, no places should be swapping due to him. Unless Zebra can overtake Naismith, then they will be swapping around a bit. But anyways, back to the front, guys, shall we? As you can see, there's a Racing Bulls doing a fairly impressive job at sticking with these guys. I believe that is Jedi though. So he now having some form of boosting confidence, knowing that he's able to match those guys' pace. Yeah, he may be on a lot fresher mediums than these guys' hards, but Fiora closing into Vince as Vince goes to the outside of Rian. Are we going to get a round 2 of what we saw a few laps ago? The Mercedes getting elbows all out, and Fiora has now got past the Red Bull, as this is becoming some desperate driving from the front runners, but still giving us an absolute spectacle this Wednesday night as Fiora to the inside for turn 4, and through goes the Williams. Magnificent 2 cars in the first sector, all because of a bit of contact between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. Saw it all flag up in the air, and unfortunately it all disassembles itself right into Fiora's palms, and that is why they are currently your championship leader and reigning champion. They just know when to pick up the scraps, and done it in such an effortless way. They've also got the freshest tyres in terms of laps done, so in theory they should walk away. But that dirty air they've had to sit in for the best part of 10 or so laps, it really is not going to be promising, as now it's Vince versus Rian. They've both dropped out of DRS of Fiora, so it'll be a straight duel towards turn 1. Vince closing in against Rian. The Mercedes versus Red Bull again, and again the Red Bull goes to the outside for turn 1, but Rian will just get ahead at the apex, give a little squeeze to the Red Bull, who's going to hold it to the inside for turn 2, not giving any room, pushing the Mercedes off in fact. But the Mercedes gains the place once more, will fend to the inside for turn 4, but Vince again round the long way, giving it every last inch of track, and again another car off the road, but Vince to the inside for turn 6, and Rian pulling off the switchback. The Mercedes going back at it and will be ahead for turn 7. That is some beautiful combat between them two, as this is definitely what you guys have signed up to spectate over the recent few hours, as it's usually a lengthy event. The sprint races, 5 lap sprints, 1 shot quali, 18-minute quali, and then a 50% race, but always guarantees some great racing. We picked Qatar because it was going to be an interesting one, because it's not usually somewhere you'd see overtakes, but these guys have gave you a full-on show. Vince towards turn 1. What can they do against Rian? Rian fending to the inside once more, and Vince round the long way there, ahead by braking, but the Mercedes will launch it to the inside, giving every single thing they've got as you start your final lap. Vince to the inside, the Red Bull having to get all their horns out, but also the Mercedes throwing every last dart they can at the charging ball as such. And it'll be Rian who will hold on, but Vince to the inside for turn 6. There's the switchback the Mercedes pulled off a lap ago, but unfortunately for Rian, unable to get by, as quite a few cars getting penalties as round goes Rian. Vince has gave the pinch to the Silver Arrow and will just start to walk away in this race. And now that brings Massey into the clutches for a podium. Surely he will be driving as quick as he's ever drove before to try and grab it, but unfortunately he will fall off as Rian goes straight off, drives into the wall, and that is a race ban going the Mercedes way. What a way to ruin such a good race. But for Fiora, round the final corner, up to the start finish line for the final time, and it's a win for the Williams. It's back to back for them. Vince takes home P2, then it's Matty in P3 for the Haas team, and it will be Bentley coming home 4th, but that will drop to P5 as Adam takes it, as Rian unfortunately taking a race ban for next week if they are to commit, but don't know. It really is not a fine art of display come the end of that race, but we have got the finishing order all settled and done. As that is one less race on the calendar, 5 to go. And the title fight very much does look like it's out of question, but the constructors is interesting. Fiora just calling Vince and Rian both terrorists in their own arts. as that was a rough race, to say the least, for quite a lot. But Fiora, winner of the sprint, winner of the main race. As here are your final results. It's of course Fiora, followed by Vince. Then it's Matty, Adam, Bentley, Rocco, Naismith, Zebra, Tugger. Spencer will be ruled out because CRL does. If you don't cross the line, you aren't a finisher. Then it's Jedi in 10th, Shankly 11th, Suspension 12th. Then it's Rianne, Daniel, George, and Lewis. But for now, that's been me, and I'll see you on Sunday on my personal account if you can find it. But yeah, it'll be me racing in F2. You'll have WRC from Jedi or Brian tomorrow, and then you have Legends Monday, F1 Manager starting up on Tuesday, and then again back with me in Canada. But that's been me. Goodbye.